Hello class, welcome to Physical Geography. We are in Lab 1, Map Essentials on page 4. If you're following along in your lab manual, I'm on page 4 again. So if you look at the top of the page, you'll see key terms. We're going to be going over these key terms as we go through the lab. You need to know these so you can answer the questions in the exercise at the end of the lab. So jumping right into the introduction, the very first map that we found of civilization was called Imago Mundi. It dates back to in between 700 and 500 BC, and it basically just outlined the path and the location of the Babylonian people along the Euphrates River. So, and since then, of course, maps have changed a lot over time, showing different area. Of course, a lot of maps were wrong because they didn't know exactly how to map, but now maps, you can just have one on your phone for GPS. You can find the nearest restaurant, you can find your friend's house. So it's come a long way. So what exactly is a map? A map is a visual representation of an area designed to show spatial data about that location. So if we look at that again, now we're on page 5. A map is a visual representation, so it's something that you look at, and it's designed to show spatial data about that location. So whatever you're looking at is trying to show you something, whether it's trying to show you how to get somewhere, or maybe it's trying to show you certain data or information about that area or about those people in that area. There's lots of different uses for maps. We're going to talk about two types of maps. The first type is a reference map, and that's going to be showing location or navigational. So it's going to show you how to get from point A to point B. So this kind of map, a reference map, could maybe be like when you're at the mall and you're trying to find a certain store. They have those maps up throughout the mall. Maybe you're on a road trip and you're trying to find like a restaurant or something. You're going to use a reference map for that. The next kind of map is a thematic map. That's going to be a lot more colorful because it's showing more data and more information. That could be used such as like population density, where it's showing where a lot of people live compared to where no one lives. Plant diversity, or a political map where you have the red states and the blue states. Thematic maps are going to be really colorful. They're going to try and show you something, and when you look at it, you'll probably learn something from it. There are other types of maps, but we're not going to talk about that right now. The main ones we're focusing on are reference and thematic. So now look at page 6. If you're looking in your lab manual, you'll see these two maps. You can tell this one is more colorful, so it's a thematic map. It's trying to show you the damage after the tornado in 2018. And then this bottom map is a reference map because it's showing you the streets around Jacksonville, and it can show you how to get from point A to point B, just for reference. Now we're on page 7. So every single map has scale. Scale is defined as a ratio of the actual area of the Earth's surface to map space. So what that means is it's when you're looking at the map, it's going to show you what that space on the map looks like compared to the actual Earth's surface. And that can be shown in two ways, either a representative fraction, which is going to be shown in like number form. So it'll be 1 to 12,000 or 1 to 2,000, like any number. It's going to start with 1 and end with the larger number. Now, a representative fraction doesn't have any units because it could be any unit that you want. It could be inches or feet or miles. Whatever it is, it's going to go for both numbers. So it could be 1 inch to 12,000 inches. And when I say that, if you're looking at a map, if I have 1 inch on this map, that's actually 12,000 inches on the Earth's surface. It could also do like a banana, 1 banana to 12,000 bananas on the actual Earth's surface. It could be any unit you want as long as it's the same for both numbers. Another way to show scale is with a graphic scale bar, and that's going to look like this on page 7. You have some examples of what scale bars look like, and these are going to have a unit on it telling you what the unit is, so you don't just make up your own. It's not going to be bananas. A lot of time it'll be miles. And so how you use this is you'll look at the map and you can take something to measure this space, and then you'll measure it on your map and know like, okay, that was 1,000 miles. So again, for maps, there's two types of ways to look at the scale. You have large scale and small scale. So large scale, I like to think of it as zoomed in. You're really zoomed in and you can see a lot of detail on the map. Whereas small scale is very zoomed out and you can't really see detail. Like small scale could be maybe the map of the entire United States and you can't see any detail, you can't see the roads, you can't see buildings. But large scale is when you zoom in to maybe one state like Alabama and you can see the roads, you can see all the cities, you can see all the details. And so that's how you know it's large scale, because you can see details. So if you look on page 8, we have 4 maps here. These first 2 are showing Jacksonville, but this first one is zoomed in and you can see a lot more detail, so that's large scale. This one is zoomed all the way out. I can barely see Jacksonville. I can barely see any town, like buildings or anything, so that's how I know that it's small scale, because I can't see any details. Now if you look at these 2 bottom maps, I think this is Atlanta. This one you can see a lot more of the roads, you can see the buildings, so that's going to be large scale because I can see detail. This one's going to be small scale because you can't really see what you're looking at. I can't see any buildings or anything. Okay, so now let's go to page 9. So page 9 is the anatomy of a map. Every single map you're going to see is going to have mostly these 6 details on it, starting with the title. The title is very important because that's basically what you're telling the reader your map is about. You want it to clearly state the location and the purpose of your map. So if it's a political map, then you want to say the title is like political counties in Alabama or something like that. You want to be very clear with your title. The second thing is the symbols. Symbols can be points, they could be lines, polygons, they could be little dots or stars. Basically, it's just going to show a feature on your map. So you could have blue lines showing rivers, you could have a tent to show like a campsite, or for like water, you'll have like a blue polygon shape showing where a lake is. Basically, all of that is symbols. The next thing is the legend, which tells you what those symbols are. So when you look at a map, it'll have usually like a little section that has all the symbols and then what that means next to it. So it's going to tell you that tent, anytime you see a tent on the map, that's going to be a campsite. Anytime you see a blue line, that's going to be a river. So that's what the legend is for. It's the most important tool for communication for the reader who's looking at your map. That way they can know what they're actually looking at. The next thing is scale, what we just talked about. When you look at the map, you'll either see that number, the representative fraction, or you're going to see the scale bar. Every single map is going to have that. Okay, so next will be the compass arrow or the compass rose. Pretty much everyone knows what that looks like. It's going to be the north, south, east, and west. That's important because you want to know, especially if it's a map of maybe a country you've never seen before, you want to know which way is north, which way is east or west. But a lot of times in maps, north is going to be at the top of the page because it's going to be really confusing if your map is oriented another way on the page. But every single map is going to have that compass arrow. And then the last thing is a grid. Especially reference maps have these grids because you're showing location, and the grid just helps to know like distance and in relation to other places on the map, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next lab. But like I said, every map you see is going to have these 6 items. So if you look at this map on page 10, you see at the top it has a title. Right here is the legend, and it has what each of these symbols means on the map. It says blue is water, green is park, orange is a major road. So that's your legend showing what everything is. Down here at the bottom is your scale bar, and so that's in miles. So if you just measure this much, then that's how you know what it is in relation to the Earth's surface. And up here in the corner is your compass rose. And then you can faintly see the grid or the graticule across the map overlay. And that's pretty much it for this lab. On page 11 is your exercise. Go ahead and fill that out. You'll answer the questions on this page and use the map on the back to answer some more questions. And then you'll just submit that on Canvas. Thank you so much for watching.